Do you find that sometimes you just don't feel like being around people? Do you find it's maybe more often than you think should be normal? Well, we're going to talk today about something I came across on the internet, and we're going to delve into why you might just not want to be spending time around people. And it's not usually what you think. There may be nothing wrong with you at all. We're going to do it this time on this episode of Wyce Thoughts. The following is a Terry Wyce production. Everybody, welcome to another episode of Wyce Thoughts. I'm Terry Wyce, and I am very excited that you've decided to join me today for the podcast. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to tell you. No, I'm happy you're here, folks, as always. I'm glad you've decided to come join us by our virtual campfire as we sit down and talk about topics, issues, ideas, and things that are important to both me and to probably you as well. So sit back, relax, grab your favorite beverage, and get your place around our virtual campfire as we get ready for another episode of Wyce Thoughts. And we're going to get started with it coming up. So don't go anywhere. It's going to be a good one on Wyce Thoughts right after this.
Wearing his sunglasses indoors just because he wants to. Let's get back to the program. Here's your host, Terry Wyce.
Hey everybody, welcome to Wyce Thoughts. Thank you so much for joining me today. And remember, if you enjoy the program, would you leave us a positive rating and review on your favorite podcast provider, please? I would really greatly appreciate it. And if you want to contact me, real simple. You can go to my website, wycethoughts.com. Just make sure you spell my name right, W-Y-C-E, wycethoughts.com. There you can listen to each and every episode of the podcast, comment on shows, contact me through the website, that and so much more. It's all at wycethoughts.com. And if you want to reach me on what is now called X, it's at Terry Wyce on X, at Terry Wyce on X. I used to say, and I know, and I'll probably say this for a few more episodes, I used to say you could tweet at me on Twitter if you so desire, but evidently Twitter is no more. It is now X, as in extra great, I guess, or extra special, extra something. Anyway. So anyway, you can contact me on X. I do have a YouTube channel as well. It's just look for Wyce Thoughts on YouTube, okay? And we also have a Facebook page. Just look for Wyce Thoughts on Facebook. It's facebook.com/Wyce Thoughts. I'm on Rumble. We're on Tumblr. Just, I don't know. I'm all over the place. I can't even keep up with all the places I am. You know, it's hard keeping up with all this social media stuff. And sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming and overbearing. But hey, I try my best. I try my best for you, the loyal listener. So those are all the places that y'all can get in touch with me. As promised, too, by the way, first of all, how are you? I hope everybody out there is doing well. We are now officially rambling right into fall here in the year 2023 here in the continental United States of America, in the northeastern half of the United States, from whence the program cometh to you. And I am, again, happy you're here and decided to join me today for another episode of Wyce Thoughts. I'm glad you're here. I really am, seriously. Some people might not be happy when you listen to their podcast. I am. And if you want to email me, it's mail, M-A-I-L, mail at wycethoughts.com. I welcome any and all feedback, okay? Positive, negative, neutral, what have you. So there we go. We got all that. We got all that ironed out. great. We got all that wonderful things ironed out. So as we were talking about a little bit in the teaser, in the opener, there's a lot of talk about mental health lately here in the United States, especially, and around the world, but especially in the United States, about your mental health, your mental well-being. I talk a lot about it on this program, about things you can do to better yourself, sharing some of my experiences, some of my victories and failures with you. That's fine. I mean, I don't mind doing that. I mean, I'm not that much of a private person. There's certain things that I won't share, obviously, with the whole world and the general public, but there's things I don't mind sharing. Some other people may not enjoy sharing these things. Man, I got to get my mouth working today. Toy boat. May not enjoy sharing certain aspects of their life with you and what have you. I don't mind. I figure it makes for great conversation. It makes a way for us to communicate back and forth. And hey, I look at it this way. If I can help somebody out there, or if somebody can relate to one of the stories I'm telling you, or some of the things I'm discussing on this podcast, and if it affects you, gets you to take action, great. If it helps you out in any way, great. Then I'm happy for you, and I'm happy I was able to assist in some way. So that's good. Or if it gives you a moment of pause to say, I'm definitely not going to do that, well, that's good too. So if you get something out of it, that's wonderful. Or if it's just kind of a few minutes to mindlessly tune out the world and take a chill break, that's good as well. So, I mean, it's a win-win-win all the way around, I feel. And, I'm just looking at how dusty the studio is here. I gotta get in here and clean this. Some things are dusty. Not good for electronic equipment. Anyway, as I go off that way. As we were talking about, there's a lot of emphasis lately in the world about, mental health and, socializing. And, some people have been deemed antisocial. Some people have been deemed, recluses. There's things like social anxiety disorder and things of that nature. SAD, seasonal affective disorder, where sometimes people just don't want to associate with people. Now, a lot of times, and I go through some of this, so, I'm going to share this with you on this episode, obviously, of the podcast today. Sometimes people just don't want to associate with people and don't want to, they work all week or what have you, and they say, you know what, I'm done. I've had enough, and I just don't want to be around anybody. I want to do my own thing, man. And that's fine. That's cool. Some people develop a fear of social situations, hence social anxiety disorder or disorders. There's different types that I've found out and I am aware of. And some people get such a fear of leaving their home and the safety net of their home, they develop something called agoraphobia, which is basically fear of leaving the house. And it's a real thing. I mean, I know some people like to joke about it and that, but it is a real thing. I have suffered at times in my life from different severities of agoraphobia where, you get these physical symptoms. You actually get these physical symptoms when you leave your house and you start second guessing. Your mind plays tricks on you and your body plays tricks on you, your adrenaline and cortisol and things like that. And I try to think of myself, I believe, as a social person. I mean, but there are times when I don't want to go anywhere. I don't want to do things for periods of time. I don't know if it's a form of depression or what have you, but there's times when I want to be out there with small groups of people, a couple friends, large groups of people, want to go out, concerts, restaurants, and there's times that I would just rather sit in my house and say, nah, But I want to share something with you. I came across on the internet some audio here, okay, it was from a web channel called Top Think. So we're giving them full credit. We're using some of their audio, Top Think. This was under a video they had titled 12 Reasons Why You Don't Like Being Around People. And number 3, I'm going to play for you here. Just have a listen to this.
3. Toxic pack mentality. The real reason that you don't like being around people may have nothing to do with your social preferences. In other words, you may have developed solitary habits because you're hanging out with the wrong people. For example, certain friend groups can become toxic and depressive, developing what's known as a toxic pack mentality. These oppressive groups force people to conform to group-friendly ideas and penalize anyone who thinks differently. Many people become trapped in toxic packs for years, unwilling or unable to break free. If you have a toxic friend group, it may be time to see who else is out there. The wrong friends can heavily influence our social preferences and just leave us wanting for meaningful connections. You may think you don't like being around people, but the truth is, you don't like being around them.
There you go. So there you go. That was I found that rather interesting, that particular thing, the toxic element of it. And it really got me thinking. And it got me thinking that in today's world, where we're so highly politicized, okay, where everything is highly politicized and where a lot of us are going into our tribes, and I've been guilty of it as well. We want like-minded people to think like we do. We want to be around like-minded people. And like the narrator there in that snippet of audio I was playing for you stated, it affects us adversely because we interpret it, or we ingest being around that person or group of people or what have you as being toxic. And believe me, my friends, coming from a toxic work environment, which I discussed a lot on the last episode, our Labor Day episode, you might want to listen to that one, the episode before this one here. I came out of a really hostile, toxic, retaliatory work environment in my previous job experience. And I'm sorry if you hear the chair creaking, sorry, in the background. Apologize for that. But, and I know what those feelings are like being in a toxic environment, and I thought about this. Now, under the auspices of full disclosure, I must state that I really don't have any toxic friends that I interpret as being toxic, okay? I don't interpret them as being toxic people and what have you. So I can't say this really directly affects me. However, the reason I wanted to bring it to the forefront on the podcast today is that I think maybe a lot of us, in our eagerness for acceptance and social interaction and that feeling of community and belonging, are possibly, think about it, you may be possibly torturing yourself under the guise of hanging around with, like the narrator stated, the wrong group of people just for that feeling of acceptance. And maybe you've been hanging around with the wrong group of people for weeks, months, or years. I mean, even years. Think about that. So that's something you might want to, ruminate on, maybe meditate on, give it some serious introspective thought, as I like to use that phrase, and think, hey, am I really hanging around the right people? Are these relationships? And I would even go as far as to transpose this over into your work environment, people you hang around with at work, or even the job you're in. I mean, from this point on, folks, I am an advocate for the best possible outcome for you for a workplace. I mean, I'm going to be, that previous very poor experience, and I don't want to, clamor on about that, but the previous work experience I had at a company that I was hoping to retire from, that I had spent well over five to almost 6 years of my life in, and I was hoping to retire from, something had to give, and I was very glad when the company was bought out, and similarly that me, along with about 80+% of the organization, weren't retained, and they let us go. I was glad to be rid of that because I was actively seeking other employment and, obviously trying to find the right opportunity and fit. But anyway, I don't want to go over all that. Just listen to the previous episode, the Labor Day special one, as I talk about toxic work environments and that. But taking this little snippet of audio, referring back to this again on this episode of Wyce Thoughts, and why maybe you don't want to socialize as much as, with others and want more you time or me time, as they say, is because you might be in a toxic work environment, whether it's at your job or people you're hanging around with at the job. And then even maybe if that's not the case, again, maybe it is people you're hanging around with after work that you're just not getting a fulfilling interaction that satisfies that need for social acceptance, social comfortability, dare I say, and things of that nature. So maybe that's something, you might want to contemplate and, again, do some deep introspective thought and reflection on I'm not trying to sound like a psychologist. I have no degree. I have no formal training. I'm just giving you what I've dealt with, what I've experienced in my life, things that have happened to me. And again, like I stated, if this can help somebody, oh man, I hope it can. I hope you either learn from my successes or mostly from my failures, so you don't have to go down those rabbit holes like I have done in the past, and waste any precious time on this beautiful planet that we all live on. In this beautiful reality that we're in right now, okay, in this dimension, what have you, whatever your beliefs are. But that being said, maybe that's one of the reasons. And, especially with today's highly charged political environment, social environment, you got all these social justice warriors that are just looking to be offended out there. And I've had conversations, actually, and it's one of the reasons, again, I wanted to concentrate on this podcast about this issue. I've had conversations with other people, and I have some people in my family and extended family that can be toxic. And I've had conversations with people that have said, I stopped talking, and dare I say, have gone so far as to say, I've stopped talking to my brother because he's just one side of the political spectrum, and all it is toxic, and they always have to bring it up, and we can talk. I'd rather we don't agree politically or social issues. I can't talk with my sister anymore because she has this total belief that is totally 180 degrees from mine. And and maybe you as a sibling or a friend or what have you have tried to explain to that person, listen, let's just not bring this up. There used to be faux pas in the workplace and, and things like that. You didn't bring up religion and you didn't bring up politics. Well, nowadays, in the workplace, everything's brought up. Everything's a social justice issue. Everything's a political issue in companies and these big corporations, it seems like. And you've got to either step in line and march to their drum politically and what they want you to, all this retraining and all this social justice warrior training horse shit, okay, as far as I'm concerned. Just be a decent person. Because you know what? A lot of the things you probably are sticking in a lot of people's faces and forcing down their throats and just beating them over the head with, they probably care about a lot of the same, if not the same issues. And they'll do the right thing. But when you just sit there and just, slam it in their face every minute of every day and tell them what pieces of garbage they are if they don't care, and politically wave a flag around saying, I care about this and I care about that and I care about this. And all sides, mind you, I just think it gets exhausting, it gets exasperating, and it gets infuriating. So think about that in terms of toxicity and why you might not want to hang around with some of those people from work, or you might be dealing with it all day at work and you're on guard in a social situation and you don't want to deal with that kind of bullshit when you get out of work. You just want, I want peace and quiet, man. I just want to go home, crack open a beer, grab a glass of wine, whatever, curl up with a good book, go play some music, do whatever. You don't want to be bothered with constantly being on call or, on the stage, having to account for every utterance or opinion you may have, or every joke you tell, or, every idea that floats in your head that somebody's sitting there with a little social justice workbook scribbling down, or a political workbook scribbling down your answers. I mean, it's all a bunch of horse shit. It's all bullshit, horse shit, whatever kind of shit. It's a bunch of shit. How's that? I know. I'm trying not to use bad words, but it gets in, like I said, it gets in exhausting, exasperating, and infuriating. And I'm sure a lot of you feel the same way. And if you do, comment, please. Comment on this podcast. Comment in the posts on X or on Facebook about this episode. Comment, email me. Let me know what you think about it. By the way, someone had emailed me and said, hey, Terry, you say that you're all over the place. What if I wanted to listen to your podcast on YouTube? Look for the channel Purple Pit Studios on YouTube, and then just look for Wyce Thoughts under that. I forgot to mention that last time. Someone had emailed me. So just go to youtube.com if you want to listen to the audio portion of the podcast. There is no video, but I'm just saying listen to the audio on YouTube there. It's Purple Pit Studios on YouTube. I don't put it on my regular YouTube channel because I'd like to keep that as open for, funny videos and light introspective stuff, product reviews, music type lessons, and what have you. I try not to get too serious on that channel because you can't be serious all the time with things. Anyhow, But yeah, that could be a reason why that you're not, socially gung-ho, as it were, to hang out with a lot of people. A lot of people just like to sit in their house. Now, the other thing, too, maybe a reason why you don't like or want to interact with people is that the world itself, socially, is evolving to new, different parameters. I've noticed this over the past decade with the increase of social media, things like Instagram, Twitter, now X, Facebook, and Rumble, and Truth Social, and TikTok, all these things. People seem a lot more comfortable and come out of their shell, some in good ways, some in not so good ways, on social media. You've heard the term, I'm sure, keyboard warriors, these social justice keyboard warriors that, try and antagonize you. And, of course, then there's AI bots out there trying to whip us all up against each other and stir the pot as well so they can get more views on a post and draw in more eyes so that way they get more advertising or clicks or, I'm sure you've heard the term clickbait, stuff like that. So that being said, the evolution of the world socially has maybe pulled us back a little bit, and then we had the whole, virus thing there back in 2020 that we were separated and locked down basically around the world. That's why I'm going to say there's a high probability if they ever tried that stuff again, it's not going to happen. People are not going to comply. I, for one, won't, just based on information. And again, this is only a personal opinion. You do what's best for you, but I won't be donning the face diapers or, locking down and, living, and again, my opinion, living like a scared rabbit in a hole. You got to live your life, man. They had one shot at whatever, and a lot of it, in my opinion, turned out to be inaccurate. And so that's not going to happen. But again, I'm sure socially that affected a lot of people. I still, and I'm sure maybe you have as well, have heard stories about people that have just now, in the year 2023, after 3 years, some people that are so traumatized or fearful coming out of their houses finally now. And that's a sad state of affairs. I really feel sorry for those individuals. I know I understand under the auspices of fairness that if you have some kind of severe autoimmune disease and things like that, I get it. I'm not heartless. I'm not a total zealot that I'm like, you got to do, what are you nuts? No, I'm not like that. But I'm talking about your average, everyday people. Some people that have just locked themselves away and their mental health has declined to the point, it's a shame, really. It's a shame. But as I always say on this program, I'm an advocate of freedom, okay? You are free to do whatever floats your boat, as they say, whatever, puts a spring in your step, as long as you are not hurting others or imposing your will on others, in other words, i.e. forcing them, okay? And I think probably the third thing, I don't want to see you hurt yourself in any way. Other than that, man, you do you be you, cool, man, right on, But, these are some factors of why socially you may just decide to not really associate with people. Well, that's about all the time we got for today. Thanks for listening to the program today. I truly appreciate each and every one of you out there. And remember, to see a change in the world, you have to be the change in the world you want to see. It all starts with you, the person looking back at you in the mirror every morning. Remember to be kind to yourself, be kind to others. If you want to tweet at me on Twitter, it's at Terry Wyce. Stop by the website, wycethoughts.com, just to make sure you spell my name right, W-Y-C-E, wycethoughts.com. And hey, leave us a positive rating and review on your favorite podcast provider, won't you? Tell your friends, tell your family, tell your pets about Wyce Thoughts. And I look forward to gathering yet again around the virtual campfire with you real soon. Take care.